In today's episode, we look at David Bieber, an infamous British criminal originally from the United States, who gained notoriety for the murder of a British police officer, PC Ian Broadhurst, in 2003. His case drew widespread attention for its chilling brutality and the police manhunt that followed, which revealed a dark and complex history where he was wanted for murder in Florida in 1995. He changed his identity and moved to the UK, where he would shoot 3 police officers 4 times in under 4 seconds. We do a deep dive into the crimes and criminal history of David Bieber. We go to Leeds the 26th of December 2003. 2 officers were doing a routine patrol. Little did they know it would end in a deadly confrontation. The officers were PC Ian Broadhurst and PC Neil Roper. The police officers had a reputation for catching stolen vehicles. As they were driving during their patrol Boxing Day, it's always an extremely quiet shift. Off the road to Dib Lane on Park Grange Avenue, they spotted a black BMW. It was parked half on the pavement, but away from the car parking spaces. PC Neil Roper commented, "It just looks suspect, like it's parked suspiciously, almost set up for a robbery on a shop." The police officers turned down Park Grange Avenue and Neil Roper spotted the tax disc in the window, which looked like a laser printed copy. The police car turned around and parked facing the BMW, and the officers got out to talk to the driver, who was sitting in the BMW reading the Racing Post. The officers asked the driver to exit the vehicle and come and have a chat with them, as they do a routine check. The BMW driver sat in the back of the patrol car, and as 2 officers checked the tax disc was a copy, and Neil Roper returned to the patrol car as PC Ian Broadhurst checked the VIN number to the vehicle. The BMW driver, cooperative at first, had continually asked for the rear windows to be lowered, saying he's claustrophobic and was becoming more anxious. PC Roper turned down the car radio and calmed down the BMW suspect by saying it's just routine and it shouldn't take long. Outside, PC Roper joined PC Broadhurst as the suspect remained in the patrol car. A radio message had come through their handsets. Headquarters said you'd done it again. The black BMW was stolen with keys in a burglary. PC Broadhurst radioed for backup as he was concerned by the size of the suspect. PC Roper would try and keep him calm, describing the suspect as he looked like a handy lad, very muscled and well built. The suspect was not handcuffed, knowing this may become a problem when they try and cuff him, so this will be done when backup arrives. Inside the car, PC Roper told the suspect that the car was reported stolen in a burglary and he needs to come down to the station to answer a few questions. He told the suspect that the conversation is being recorded in the car. The suspect replied, "I did not steal that car." PC Roper in a calm manner said, "Okay, you'll get your chance to have your say at the station." He asked where the suspect was from due to his American accent. He said he was from Canada. The suspect was getting more restless. PC Roper was aware there was a weight to his coat as the suspect moved forward. He asked the suspect, "Do you have anything on you? You shouldn't, because we have the right to search you and handcuff you." The suspect replied he didn't have anything, and you don't need to handcuff him. PC Broadhurst was outside the patrol vehicle. The recovery truck had turned up to collect the BMW. The suspect's BMW was loaded onto a recovery vehicle and driven away. The suspect was getting more anxious when his car was taken. Shortly after, PC James Banks had showed up and parked the car where the BMW once was, facing the patrol car. It was now getting dark and the rain was coming down heavy. The 2 police officers, PC Roper and Broadhurst, moved in to handcuff the suspect. As the police officers opened the rear door, the suspect put his foot out and from his jacket pulled a 9mm gun. In 4 seconds, the suspect had fired 4 shots, each shot hitting its intended target. PC Roper had been shot twice in the back. PC Broadhurst was shot and lying by the patrol car. The 4th shot had hit PC Banks in the chest. PC Roper managed to drag himself around the car, bleeding heavily, and he managed to drag himself to a doorway, where he gave his location. The suspect then walked over to PC Broadhurst, lying on the ground, and something that is still shocking to this day, shot PC Ian Broadhurst in the head. There was no need for it. In those 4 shots, the suspect had incapacitated the 3 police officers. He could have escaped, but chose in cold blood to fire the 5th shot. The suspect then ran off. On the police audio from the patrol car, members of the public can be heard talking to PC Broadhurst, trying to make him comfortable until the ambulance arrived. On his way to hospital, PC Ian Broadhurst was pronounced dead. PC Neil Roper was seriously wounded. Luckily, PC Banks, who was shot in the chest, was alive. The bullet had hit his radio and he was unarmed. The crime scene had shattered the silence of Boxing Day. An hour later, the area on Dib Lane and Park Grange Avenue, police and forensics had flooded at the crime scene. Armed police patrols were scouring the area. A new report had come in. A suspect had stolen a Rover 620, threatening 2 members of the public. The man said, "I just want the car. I don't want to kill you, but I will." The man and his girlfriend jumped out of the vehicle and left it for him to take. This was several minutes after the shooting. That evening, the gunman could not be found. All the police had was a recovered BMW. Police obtained CCTV of a man in a local shop behind a Galaxy bar and a racing post. The man seemed friendly and asked the shopkeeper if he knew who won the football game. The shopkeeper said he didn't know. Police now had a CCTV image of the suspect. That evening, of course, it was headline news. Police released details of the black BMW driven by the suspect. The ferocity of the incident had journalists thinking that it was gangland connected, or it was a hitman who the police had pulled. The suspect, who was under stress and pressure, hit every police officer, a truly dangerous individual. Also, cop killers won't think twice about killing a member of the public. Police had fingerprints from the Galaxy Bar chocolate wrapper and the Racing Post newspaper. No prints were on record for anyone with previous in the UK. The prints were sent to Interpol, America and Canada, where the police had to wait for them. So in the meantime, with no further leads, they released a press conference of the suspect and the BMW. Calls flooded into the police line, several of them mentioning a doorman named Nathan Coleman, who drove a black BMW and been trying to buy a handgun. With his name, police had an address. The address, Springwood Court on Springwood Lane, was a 3-minute drive from where police officers were shot. The flat was raided by armed police. The suspect was long gone. The stolen Rover 600 was found nearby the address. The leather jacket the suspect was wearing was left at the flat. The flat was a mess with clothes strewn across it, and on the table was an ID, a doorman's ID, showing the first picture of the police's prime suspect, Nathan Coleman. The landlord said Nathan Coleman always paid his rent ahead of time and always in cash. By now, UK police had a file sent over from the FBI from Miami police. The fingerprints belonged to an American fugitive named David Bieber, who was wanted for murder in Florida. So who is David Bieber? David Bieber excelled at sports when he was a kid. He became a competitive swimmer, winning hundreds of trophies. He came from a normal family background, and his dad was a school teacher. David Bieber had a head for maths, but instead of doing something with it, he would use his mathematical strength for sports betting at school and make considerable profit. He would join the football team and have a passion for weightlifting and bodybuilding. After leaving school, he joined the army, where he was rated highly as a great shot, and his physical fitness, he was a perfect recruit for the US Marines, and he was enrolled. Bieber was a top marksman and rated extremely high in unarmed combat. Bieber, though, had a problem with authority and would go AWOL, absent without leave, to go gambling in Vegas, and on the 14th time of going AWOL and a fight with a drill sergeant, he was thrown out the Marines and dishonourably discharged. After Bieber's discharge from the army, he started a bakery business which also delivered to wealthy and elderly clients. In a short time, David Bieber had built up a huge customer base, and after a few years sold the business, rumoured to be just under $500,000. With the free time he now had and not needing to work, he got into the world of competitive bodybuilding. There he met Marcus Mueller. Marcus Mueller was a German national, but he moved to America to find fame and fortune. He was a bodybuilder, wrestler, and a B-movie actor, but also dealt in illegal products to aid bodybuilders, which was high quality and imported from Europe. Bieber threw some of his money in and the two became partners. The money was rolling in. Bieber for his side got help and recruited John Saladino, who would be a runner and smooth any problems for Bieber and collect money. Bieber with his help had even more free time and started having an affair with Marcus Mueller's girlfriend, Danielle LaBelle. The affair was found out, and it would end up souring Mueller's and Bieber's friendship. David Bieber and Danielle LaBelle got married, but after 2 weeks, LaBelle went back to Mueller. David Bieber was sick of Mueller. Bieber was making a fortune from his illegal dealing, but wanted it all, and told his right-hand man Saladino to kill Mueller. Saladino got a young gullible 17-year-old David Snipes, who needed the money to do the hit, and he was paid $1,000. Snipes went to Mueller's address with a .38 revolver. David Bieber, with Mueller's death, would take over the illegal dealing and get LaBelle back. The hitman was told to also clear out Mueller's stash of product that he'd just shipped in from Europe. On February 9, 1995, Snipes walked up to Marcus Mueller, who was entering his home in Bonita Springs, Florida. Snipes shot Mueller 3 times, twice in the torso and once in the head. He collected the product that Bieber wanted and then tossed the gun into the bushes and fled the scene. Danielle LaBelle found Mueller's body while coming to visit him. Marcus Mueller was 29 years old at the time of his death. LaBelle contacted the police and even gave her husband David Bieber's name, who she believed had killed him. As police attended the murder scene, Bieber was sitting outside in his new Corvette, waiting for LaBelle. Bieber was prime suspect, but had a solid alibi. Police took his collection of firearms, but returned them not long after. Bieber, for the moment, was in the clear, but Lieutenant Barry Futch wasn't buying it. He knew Bieber was responsible. Bieber had said even though they fell out over LaBelle, Mueller was his best friend. Lieutenant Futch knew it was Bieber, and it pained him to let him go. The hitman Snipes would be caught doing another hit for Saladino for Bieber, this time an ex-girlfriend of Bieber's, Michelle Marsh, who knew too much about his dealing. The 4 shots fired by the hitman missed the target. Police caught Snipes, who gave up Saladino. They both in turn gave up David Bieber. An arrest warrant was issued for David Bieber, and several units were sent to arrest him. Bieber wasn't there, and now complicating their search, police noticed that his appearance was starting to change. He changed his hair and started gaining weight, leading the detective to believe that Bieber was off the illegal supplements. Bieber and Mueller's dealing empire ran into millions of dollars. Police shut down Bieber's accounts, though most of the substantial ones Bieber had emptied. Most of Bieber's money had been moved into property and land years before to clean the cash coming in. The cash would be cleaned by gambling and the money moved to his holdings. These accounts were all in different names, and it was a massive headache for police to uncode. Stranger still, Bieber rented his home he lived in, almost preparing himself, knowing at some point he may have to go on the run. Lieutenant Futch interviewed Saladino and Snipes and asked if there was any more targets Bieber wanted dead. Saladino said yes, you. Futch, taken aback, asked him to say it again. After the hit on Michelle Marsh, the next target was the lieutenant. Bieber wanted Lieutenant Futch dead for arresting him. The manhunt for Bieber was now proving fruitless. What police didn't know was that Bieber was hard at work on a whole new identity, but he needed a name, someone roughly his age with an innocent past. David Bieber found that identity in a Georgia cemetery on a gravestone of 6-year-old boy, Nathan Wayne Coleman, who had died in 1975. Bieber bought a copy of Coleman's birth certificate and got a passport in his name. It's something that he copied in a book and the film Day of the Jackal. The jackal adopts different identities by attaining birth certificates in the same manner. What is even more crazy, this loophole worked in the UK and USA. It was only closed down in 2017, when systems fully cross-reference passports and driving licences with death certificates. In September 1996, the fake Nathan Wayne Coleman fled the United States to the UK. Saladino and Snipes would be sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. Bieber's arrest warrant for murder was still outstanding. Bieber chose the UK as his hiding place because he believed that British authorities would be less likely to uncover his true identity or connect him to the crimes he had committed in the United States. To further distance himself from the past, Bieber continued to use aliases and changed his appearance, adopting a more inconspicuous lifestyle. He met a British woman, Denise Horsley, a divorced mother with 2 young sons. They married at Kendal Register Office 17 days before his visa expired. At the time of the marriage, unbeknown to Miss Horsley, he was still married to Daniel Bieber in Florida. Bieber began work as a doorman at various nightclubs in Kirklees and Selby. Throughout his brief marriage to Miss Horsley, he lived out of a suitcase and never bothered to unpack. His behaviour made her suspicious, as he insisted no photographs to be taken at the wedding, and he kept many of his belongings in a locked case. She eventually prized open the case and found a false ID card, birth certificate, and several illegal bodybuilding supplements. There was also a large bundle of US dollars. She asked her brother to check out his name on the internet, but he drew a blank, as he'd been using the name of Nathan Coleman. After 2 years, the marriage had broken down. Denise arranged a flat for Bieber to live in Springwood Road, and the pair broke contact for good. But Bieber had got what he wanted. Nathan Coleman was allowed permanent residence in the UK. Neighbours rarely see Bieber. Only times they'd seen him was when he was working on an old blue Ford Sierra he had. One day the car would be gone and replaced with a new black BMW. Working on the door, he was constantly asking where he could get a gun and ammunition. This now brings us up to date to the confrontation on Dib Lane. The manhunt for David Bieber was well underway. A storage warehouse had got into contact with police that Nathan Coleman had turned up early in the morning the day after the shooting to collect some things. Police broke open Bieber's storage locker and found bags of ammunition and a press for making bullets. Police now knew that Bieber had a load of ammo with his weapon, which would make him even more dangerous. Bieber had a series of accounts for Nathan Coleman and cleared one, but ordered a Eurostar ticket on another. This was subterfuge to get police thinking he was heading out the country. His plan was to lie low and eventually head to Europe under a new identity, where he could easily disappear. 5 days after the shooting, after several sightings and one false alarm, when York Station was closed for several hours, armed officers caught up with David Bieber at a £29.50 a night hotel 90 miles away in Gateshead. Bieber had checked into the hotel using a false name and address. His odd behaviour and strange appearance, he'd dyed his hair orange and was wearing ill-fitting glasses and a black woolly hat, immediately aroused suspicions among staff at the hotel. Armed police surrounded the building, and as armed police went up the stairs to his room, Bieber opened the door and slammed it shut. After a tense standoff, David Bieber, with no way out, handed himself to police without a struggle. The murder weapon was hidden beneath the mattress of his single bed. The gun was ready to fire and had his DNA on the trigger. Among the items removed from the room were £6,006 in cash and a birth certificate in the name of Nathan Coleman. He also had a list of names who were to be his next aliases. Despite the weight of evidence against him, Bieber maintained it was a case of mistaken identity. He claimed the shootings were carried out by a mystery friend known as Mr. X, who he repeatedly refused to name. The description of the gunman had varied widely, that he was Greek, Asian or Turkish in appearance in the press. Rather conveniently, Bieber claimed that one of the few differences between him and Mr. X was that he was pale as a ghost, and while his friend was tanned. The trial was held at Newcastle Crown Court and ended on 2nd December 2004. Bieber denied murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and possession of a firearm with the intent to endanger life, and possession of 200 9mm pistol rounds found in a storage shed. Bieber admitted possession of 298 9mm rounds when he was arrested. Surrounding the court were armed police. Bieber was convicted of 1 count of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. The judge, Mr. Justice Moses, told Bieber he had shown no remorse or understanding of the brutality of his crime. And the aggravating feature was, in this case, that Bieber did not need to shoot PC Ian Broadhurst through the head, noting you had already disabled him and he was defenceless. You could have escaped, but you chose to wait and fire a second shot at point-blank range. To shoot and kill an officer in such circumstances, doing no more than trying to serve us all, is an attack on all of us. It must be acknowledged that he might have died as a result of your first shot, but you made certain of his death. Bieber was given 3 life sentences. The judge recommended that Bieber should never be released, making him the 25th person in British legal history to be recommended for lifelong imprisonment. Should he be released, the state of Florida, he faces charges related to the murder of Marcus Mueller and the attempted murder of former girlfriend Michelle Marsh in 1995. Had he been found not guilty, Bieber would have been deported to the US, where he would inevitably have faced the death penalty. Through a series of cases, Bieber launched an appeal through the European Court of Human Rights. It concluded he would still have to serve his full sentence, as his rights were not breached. Later in 2007, it was reported that Bieber was involved in an escape plot with 2 other prisoners. Stories varied wildly, but it started when Bieber had a new cellmate, a South African, with connections. Bieber said he had millions stashed away, and plans were put into motion. It would come to an end when the South African was released without charge. With rumours circulating the prison of Bieber's escape plan, of helicopters, and taking guards hostage. Authorities at Franklin Prison, a high-security facility in Durham, uncovered his elaborate escape plan. Prison staff found a series of detailed notes and documents in Bieber's possession that outlined the various stages of his escape attempt. These documents revealed a highly organised and methodical plan, indicating that Bieber had been working on it for some time. Bieber was placed under even stricter security measures, including 24-hour surveillance, to ensure he would not have another opportunity to plot an escape. His movements within the prison were severely restricted, and he was moved to a different wing of the facility to isolate him from other prisoners who might have been involved in the plot or could assist him in future. One of the most alarming aspects of the escape plan was the lengths to which Bieber was willing to go to achieve his goal. It became clear that he was not simply hoping to exploit minor security lapses or sneak out unnoticed. Instead, his plan involved a violent and coordinated breakout, which could have potentially endangered the lives of both prison staff and fellow inmates. The revelation of Bieber's escape plan had a significant impact on public perception of the UK prison system and its ability to contain dangerous offenders. The fact that a convicted cop killer had been able to plan such an elaborate escape so soon after his incarceration raised concerns about the maximum security facilities and the potential for other high-profile criminals to attempt similar breakouts. On 23 July 2008, Bieber was told by the High Court that he would not have to serve a whole life term, as originally recommended by the trial judge, but he would still have to serve a minimum of 37 years before being considered for parole, meaning he's set to remain in prison until at least 2041, when he'll be 75 years old. The Police Federation said the court had blood on its hands. On the 10th of August 2017, Bieber, working as a cleaner in a prison, attacked a prison officer, Alison Smith, in Long Lartin prison with a homemade weapon fashioned from an iron bar. At Worcester Crown Court, he was given an additional life sentence with a minimum 6-year additional term to run consecutively. The attack on the prison guard was not an isolated incident in David Bieber's life behind bars. Over the years, he had been involved in other aggressive confrontations with both inmates and prison staff, further demonstrating his inability to adjust to life in prison. Bieber's violent tendencies made him a constant threat to those around him, and his behaviour required ongoing management by prison authorities. Bieber's aggression could be seen as an extension of the personality traits that had characterised his life of crime before his incarceration. His willingness to resort to violence, manipulative tendencies, and his lack of remorse for his actions all contributed to the volatile nature of his behaviour in prison. This made him a particularly difficult inmate to control. David Bieber's behaviour before, during and after the murder of PC in Broadhurst raises important questions about his psychological state. While there was no formal diagnosis of mental illness during his trial, there are indications that Bieber suffered from severe psychological issues. His history of violence, paranoia and obsessive personality, particularly in relation to his bodybuilding career, suggest a pattern of narcissistic and antisocial behaviour. Bieber's use of illegal bodybuilding supplements, which are known to cause mood swings, aggression and paranoia in some individuals, may have contributed to his violent tendencies. Although this does not excuse any of the brutality of his actions. The lives David Bieber has ruined and destroyed, notably PC and Broadhurst's widow and family. For the Broadhurst family and the police community, the impact of the murder remains deeply felt. PC Broadhurst's widow became an advocate for better protection for police officers, speaking out about the need for increased resources and support for those who serve in law enforcement. David Bieber's life and crimes are a disturbing example of how a promising individual became consumed by violence, criminality, and a desire for power. From his early years as a bodybuilder in Florida to his time as a fugitive in the UK, Bieber's descent into crime was marked by escalating violence and a complete disregard for the lives of others. While David Bieber will never walk free again, his actions have left a lasting impact on the UK and US criminal justice system, prompting changes in how dangerous criminals are tracked and apprehended across borders. But the main question I ask myself, why does the UK not fingerprint people who are allowed to stay in the UK? A quick search would have revealed that Nathan Coleman was David Bieber, a fugitive on the run. If this had happened, Bieber would have been shipped back, if not to face a death penalty, certainly life behind bars, before he would ever have a chance to ruin a single life in the UK.